to the Anu Asafo Show, where Pan-Africanism meets African traditional spirituality. Here, we present views from a wide variety of sources. And now, let's begin.
A wind of destruction is blowing over this land. And now the earth is trembling with man's oppression of man. Now the time comes to sit down and rediscover what's life. Show the world the true meaning of real love, power, not strife.
And now, our African pledge by our Chief Jugna, H. Yuya Asan Anu.
We are an African people. We will remember the humanity, glory, and suffering of our ancestors. We will honor the struggles of our elders. We will strive to bring new values and new life to our people. We will have peace and harmony among us. We will be loving, sharing, and creative. We will work, study, and listen so we may learn. Learn so we may teach. We will cultivate self-reliance. We will struggle to resurrect and unify our homeland. We will raise many children for our nation. We will have discipline, patience, devotion, and courage. We will live as models to provide new directions for our people. We will be free and self-determining. We are an African people, and we will win, and we will win, and we will win. Ashe.
Ashe, and welcome all to the Anu Asafo Show, where Pan-Africanism meets African traditional spirituality. With your host this week, Sister Omilade as usual, and me, Brother Wole Mango Ifa. We would like to personally thank all of you for being here this week, and let you know that, and ask you to first, please remember to click the follow button under the Anu Asafo title on the Blog Talk Radio page. Hopefully we can do it this week, so by doing so, you will be privy to all upcoming information on shows, guests, and etc. concerning the show. But first, we'd like to let you know that it's great to be here this weekend with this Enlightenment and Transformation program, where we present information from a variety of sources, but personally endorse none, leaving you, the online audience, the opportunity to make up your own minds. Sister Omilade, are you there? Just wanted to say hi.
I am here. How are you today?
Everything seems fine so far. Let the audience hear your voice. That's always a good thing. How are you this weekend?
I'm doing well. It's nice and sunny, and I'm glad to be in the studio today.
And we are blessed again this week to have a fantastic guest by the name of Marcus Akinlana. He is an artist. He is a fine artist, a painter particularly. He is a martial artist and director of his own martial arts studio. He is, and I forgot to mention, he's also a gallery owner as well as a painter. He is a musical artist. He is an instructor and performer specializing in drums. And last but not least, he's an artist as a practitioner of the sacred arts of the ancestors. Baba Marcus is a Shango Olorisa, located in New Orleans and based in the French Quarter. So he does a lot. He has a lot on his plate, and he has a lot to offer us. And we are looking forward to talking to him on the other side of our first break. Get relaxed, get ready to take some notes, listen closely, and get into knowledge of the arts, musical, martial, and spiritual arts.
Shalom and peace. Thank you for joining me today, your host, Tamu and Gina, for another segment of Your Vital Energy. It is spring, it is spring, it is spring. I know I said this a couple of weeks ago, but it's really here, and I am excited to be here with you. First, I'd like to say thank you to sadulunation.org and saduluhouse.org for inviting me here to share with you your vital energy. I am excited today to continue on the topic of herbs. I think about 2 segments ago, I mentioned 3, 4, 5 herbs that were really good to have on hand. And I wanted to continue that tradition in this episode. This episode is for people who are interested in really working on healing themselves, mind, body, and soul. And one of the great ways to assist in your healing and in bringing balance to your life and bringing a wholeness to your life is learning to work with, to respect the herbal kingdom. Recently, I enrolled in an amazing herbal course that I'd like to share with you. The course is by Cherise Sledge-Thomas, and she is a beautiful sister coming out of Ohio. Her website is Awakened Vitality. That is awakenedvitality.com. AWAKEN, D as in dog, V as in Victor, IT as in talk, ALIT as in talk, Y.com. She has a wonderful herbal certification program that is approximately 6 months long. It is a wonderful program and very reasonably priced. I'll give you an idea of her curriculum. A quick overview of the curriculum. She deals with the healing philosophy, herbal terminology, self-healing and grounding techniques. She also teaches you about client consultations and health histories, the legal aspects of herbalism and holistic healing. There's also a segment overviewing spice rack herbs, preparing herbal infusions, nutrition and spiritual awakening, building your business, as well as first aid herbs, herbal gardening and wild crafting, herbs specific for women's womb health, herbs for degenerative diseases, and she also goes over the healing powers of crystals and herbal elixirs, box flower essence and essential oils, and spiritual practices for budding herbalists and nutritional theories. I have been in the class for a couple of weeks now. I've been in contact with Cherise for a couple of months as well, and she is an amazing woman who first set out on healing herself
which is most important as a healer, is first heal yourself. And then, once she worked on healing the issues that she dealt with, family members and friends saw, the wonderful benefits that were taking place in her life, and she began helping other people. And she trained as a master herbalist, and I just give this woman high praises, and I really recommend you checking her out if you yourself are a self-styled herbalist and are wishing to, officially learn a really good foundation in herbs so that you can not only enhance your own life, your own family life, but also, if you want to add to your healing repertoire and, take on clients. Awaken Vitality is an amazing herbal program, and I highly endorse it. I also would like to share with you a couple of herbal books that I keep on my shelf, and I use them not only for myself but with my family. 2 books that I have on hand to begin with. Susan Weed. She has a book on menopausal years, The Wise Woman Way, Alternative Approaches for Women Ages 30 through 90. And this book, the author again is Susan, that's S-U-S-U-N, Weed. You can also find her website at www.susanweed.com. And she has another book in the Wise Woman Herbal series called Healing Wise. And this is another book. This one benefits the entire family, male and female, children and adults. And it's a 280-page book on wonderful methods of using herbs to maintain your health, to restore wellness. Susan Weed has been in the herbalist field probably for about 40 years. She's very well respected in this area, so I would definitely check her out and her books, Menopausal Years, The Wise Woman Way. So this book is not just for women in menopause, but for women who are between the ages of 30 on up. And again, Healing Wise. Another book that I use for my family, Health Through God's Pharmacy. And that book is by Maria Trebin. Trebin is spelled T-R-E-B-N. And I cannot, this book includes about 20 to 25 various herbs, specific remedies to use for this herb, for the different herbs that are speaking about. And there's also drawings in the book to help you to identify the herbs in the wild. Speaking of herbs and speaking of in the wild, now that it is spring and definitely warmer in the northern hemisphere, I want to remind you one of the ways to help build up your vital energy is to make sure that you spend a decent amount of time outdoors and outdoors barefoot to make sure that you get maximum contact with Mother Earth. It's very healing, it's very grounding. And for those of you unfamiliar with the term grounding, grounding simply means a method for you to connect with the earth, to release tension and stress, and to gain energy from the earth. And yes, it is very possible to not only relieve your stress by standing on the earth barefoot, but also to gain energy. In traditional Chinese medicine, there are 3 centers of energy in the body. The energy centers in the body in traditional Chinese medicine are called dantian. and you have 3 dantians. You have the upper dantian, which is located in your crown area of your head. You have the middle dantian, which is located approximately in your heart area. And then you have the lower dantian, which is probably about 2 inches below your navel. It's sort of right in that area. Those are your 3 dantians, and a wonderful method of helping to ground yourself and to relieve tension, stress, to bring healing to your mind, heart, and body from the earth is to stand outside barefoot and physically put your hand on your lower dantian and your upper dantian. Breathe in and allowing yourself to feel the energy pulling up from the earth and into your body, right up, straight through your body. But also as you're breathing, you're imagining that energy building up in your lower dantian and just flowing through your lower dantian, which is in your navel area, into your heart, expanding out into your arms and your hands, flowing back into your heart, and up into your upper dantian. And at the same time, imagining energy from the heavens flowing downward into your upper dantian, working its way into your middle dantian, and down into your lower dantian. The lower dantian in Japanese energetic practices is called the hara area, and it is your lower dantian which stores your personal energy, the energy that you inherited from your father and your mother through your conception, and that energy. And the upper dantian is the energy that you connect with the heavens. Connect with the energy around you, and that's flowing through the heavens. Allowing the energy to come in through there and mixing with your lower dantian up into your heart is a wonderful way to really generate and bring greater energy into your body and to ground yourself. I would like to thank you for joining me for this brief segment of Your Vital Energy, for which I introduced to you a wonderful herbalist by the name of Cherise Sledge Thomas, and her website, awakenedvitality.com. Again, that is www.awakenedvitality.com. Please check her out, and her herbal certification course, which is fantastic. And also SusanWeed.com. That is Susan, S-U-S-U-N, as in Sue and Sun, Weed, W-E-E-D.com. An amazing and rich source of practical knowledge of herbalism. Thank you. Peace and joy. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Your Vital Energy.
Please join us as the Sedulu House Spiritual Center exhibits at the Mind, Body, and Spirit Expo, which is the largest holistic and spiritual expo in the Tri-State area, on May 2nd through May 4th at the Garden State Exhibit Center in Somerset, New Jersey, located at 50 Somerset Drive in Somerset, New Jersey. At this 3-day event, you will have access to national and international exhibitors and speakers, including our very own master teacher, author, spiritual guide, and chief Jegna of the Sedulu House Spiritual Center, H. Yuya Asan Anu. H. Yuya Asan Anu will take participants of the lecture through various steps which will attune each individual in attendance to their own unique genius, source frequency, and improve the quality of their life. The lecture will take place Saturday, May 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the room General 2 at the Garden State Exhibit Center, and it is free to attend this lecture. Please visit www.mindbodyspiritexpo.com and click the link for speakers and lectures for more information. We also urge you to check out the exhibition at the Mind, Body, and Soul Expo, as the Sadulu House Spiritual Center will be exhibiting its products and services all 3 days. The Sadulu House Spiritual Center exhibition booth will include discounted classes, spiritual consultations, spiritual tools and divination supplies, books, DVDs, and more. Our booth location number is A10A. If you decide to come to the expo, you will also have access to free lectures, 3 days of free yoga classes, workshops, natural products, holistic health products, live entertainment, including music, drumming, chanting, and more. The Mind, Body, and Spirit Expo is May 2nd from 4 to 9 p.m., May 3rd from 10 to 8 p.m., May 4th from 10 to 6 p.m., and is located at the Garden State Exhibition Center at 50 Atrium Drive, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. The cost is $5 to enter on Friday and $15 to enter on Saturday and Sunday. There are discounts available. So for more details and to RSVP for the exhibition and lecture, please visit www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers. See you there.
Asheo, and welcome back. It is 10 minutes after the hour, and we are sitting in the new Asafo studios with this weekend's guest, none other than one of New Orleans' premier practitioners of the arts, Baba Marcus Akinlana. Now, Baba Marcus, as I said before, is an artist in the true sense of the word. He's a fine artist, a painter, and gallery owner. He's a musical artist specializing in drums. He is a martial artist and teacher of those arts. And last but not least, he's a practitioner of the sacred arts of the ancestors. He is an Olorisa of Shango, Baba Makoto, the powerful king. Baba Marcus, are you there?
Well, before we bring Baba Marcus on, can I make an announcement real quick? I think he's in the studio. But I wanted to just say, for those who are in the New Jersey area, if you could join us at the Mind, Body, and Spirit Expo, it's going to be amazing. The lecture is actually on May 3rd and not May 5th, like the audio said. And we've also changed our booth number. So we'll have that updated for our Foundational Friday segment this Friday. In addition to that, we'll also have testimonials from our last discussion at Integral Yoga, so be on the lookout for that.
Sounds great. Baba Marcus, welcome to the Anu Asafo.
Casado, Wadupwe. Can you hear me?
Ashe, yes we can. And thanks for making the time to be here with us. As usual, New Orleans is popping. There's the Jazz and Heritage Festival, and a bunch of other things, like the Women's Fest that took place yesterday. And you're known to be involved in everything, so thanks for making the time.
Well, I want to thank for inviting me. This is an honor. And, I wasn't able to be as involved in What Manifest this time, but I did go yesterday and as a fan. It was great.
Shay, this coming Tuesday, you are going to be giving a lecture at you're going to be giving a Sacred Tuesday regular lecture series lecture over at King and Queen Emporium with our good sister Iyasula. And we understand that your main topic is going to be about initiations. we want to talk to you all about that, but let's give the audience some more background information on yourself. Would you tell us about your spiritual journey, how you evolved from where you were to being a traditionalist, and then your roadway to the priesthood?
Most definitely. Okay, so I come from a family that is split from two parts of the U.S. One is, of course, Louisiana and New Orleans in particular, and the other is North Carolina and Washington, D.C. area. And on that North Carolina side, in the 1980s, the Lakbas, the elders of my family, and including my beloved mother, they went on an extensive project to retrace our ancestry and heritage. And they retraced our family in the U.S. all the way back to the 1700s. Prior to that, we found that we came primarily from what's now considered Yoruba land, and most of our bloodline was Yoruba, and some of it Ebe, and some Fan. Okay, that was in the 1980s. To give you an example, when we had a family reunion back around those days, at one point in time we had 700 people involved. Where my mother's from, she's born on the and she rests in peace. She was born on the Tar River, which is in Pitt County, North Carolina. And it just so happened that when I went to art school back in the 80s, they had a great teacher there who taught, amongst other things, arts of the African diaspora. Her name was Marilyn Holberg. Our roommate, she rest in peace. And one day, I'm sitting in the class, and she starts talking about different African people's customs and cultures, in particular Yoruba culture. And everything she's talking about, I already knew, had some knowledge of, because it had been taught to me by my grandmother and my mother, as far as their ancestral traditions, things that Yoruba people as well as Congo people would do. I remember in the class she was talking about them going to the cemetery, to their grave sites, and turning offerings upside down, which I had learned from my grandmother. So basically, the culture was passed to me primarily through my family. And like, for instance, my mother first got my first reading for me that I was aware of when I was a teenager. So normally I've been in it all my life. I had the blessing of not being entirely separated from the great, African cultural genius, as well as on the Louisiana side of the family. And my other grandmother was born in 1905, and she was a repository of some of the sacred traditions of voodoo. They wouldn't have called it that, coming out of the Seventh Ward. That's what it was.
Ashe.
So it was kind of passed down to me. So what happened, around about 1987, I was in art school in Chicago at the time, and that school had very few students of color, and I was feeling alienated. But I had the blessing of getting a great instructor whose name is Munir Puhatin. And Munir, around that time, in around 87, he had just completed his initiation to Batala, and he was my college advisor. And I was starting, learning this stuff, and I started to realize, like, this got something to do with us, That's what my grandmother, mother, and them taught me. And, they out in North Carolina researching this thing right now. Let me see what I could do over here in school in Chicago. So when he came to my studio, and I had a painting in there. I had a painting, and in the painting, I included that shoe. For folks that are not familiar with that shoe, that is the divinity of one of the most powerful divinities in the Ifa Yoruba pantheon, period. And it's the divinity that's commonly associated with the crossroads. And around the world, people call Eshu by many names, beloved names. Usually they are nicknames and pet names that come from the term Alagbara, which is a praise name for Eshu. So Alagbara in Cuba became Elegua, et cetera, so forth, right? Papa Boss, et cetera, so forth. So I'm doing this painting of Eshu. At the time, I really didn't know that much about Eshu, And here comes my college advisor who had just gotten initiated to Abatala, Munir Buhadin, and he said, man, it's funny that you're doing this thing about SU because we just did the reading for the year at Cast Sacred Divination, and this is the principal divinity for this year is SU. So you must really be tuned in. You tapped in, young brother. Well, that made me feel good. He told me I was tuned in. I said, oh, I'm tuned in.
I said,
and that was one of the things that made me dig deeper. And around about 1989, I committed myself to, I guess you could say, to the priesthood. It happened in a funny way. What happened was I was working with a gentleman who later became initiated to Akinlana, who's one of the most powerful mediums I have ever met. His name is Heriberto Gonzalez. And then I was also working at the time. He had a family. He was married to a very dynamic woman. Her name is Ifalala Oboyede Omobola. She's pretty well known. She's a great writer. So he's also initiated to Aya Ifa. So at that time, none of us were fully initiated. We were trying to work our way up. And they had a botanica on the south side of Chicago. So long story short, I didn't really know how to drive. I taught myself how to drive at the age of 22 because I didn't have access to that before that. I was a pretty horrible driver back then. So I pulled out of a left-hand lane one day, kind of pulled out of it sharp, and in my mirror I seen a car just speeding, coming towards me. And that car, to avoid hitting me, just pulled up on the right side of the curb. Both of his tires blew out. Me and Heriberto's in the car. Now, a more experienced driver, I wasn't totally in the wrong, but a more experienced driver would have never did that, But and the other dude was he wasn't totally in the right either because he was speeding. But when he gets out of the car and pulls past us, what do we see on the back of his bumper? It's a Fraternal Order of Police, Chicago PD sticker. So we was like, oh, man, we got to be taken through the ringer. And then before everybody get out the cars, here come 2-3 more police cars pull up. And they get out slapping hands with him, greeting him on a first-name basis. And we like, man, we about to be taken through the ringer with this here. Notorious Chicago PD, corrupt, right? And he wrong. And but watch and see if he don't try to, get over on us. So he got out, woofing and all like that. In order to appease the thing, I said, look here, man, we're going to straighten you out. Don't worry about it. We'll meet you somewhere in the middle. So Heriberto told me, he said, don't worry about that. He said, let's go back to the shop and tell the dude when we can come and meet us. As soon as we got back to the shop, Heriberto told me, he said, give a red apple to SU and ask him to take care of it for you. So I got a red apple and gave to SU, the shrine at SU he had at his shop. And the next thing I know, here comes the cop who was woofing and hollering and doing his song and dance, trying to make everything go his way before. And he pulls up. He has like a Camaro, big old hot rod. He pulls up from the jumps out. He said, brothers, don't worry about the tires. I got it taken care of. You ain't got to worry about a thing. Don't even worry about it. Now, I know I shouldn't be driving like that. Don't even worry about it. I got to take care of. So from that one incident, I'm the type of person where you didn't have to tell me twice. That was the end of that. I said, I'm with it. Let's put it in motion. Voodoo and Ifa all the way. It works. I'm with it. It's our culture. Let's get it on. That's how I really got committed to it.
Fantastic. By the way, was that Iya Omobola, who's now based in Jackson, Mississippi?
That it is.
I say, yeah, we're very familiar with her work, and we're in the process of reaching out to her, and we want to invite her. If she's listening, we will be in touch. But, along the lines of, okay, so you got involved that way. Now, after you decide to get involved, who are some of the people that you've worked with? We want to be very respectful on this show to all of our priests, our Olorisa. So I don't want to ask you any wrong questions, and if I do, please let me know. But could you tell us some about that spiritual process?
There are no wrong questions. There are no wrong questions. Okay, well, first of all, as far as for me personally, now keep in mind that my family was also involved in the tradition before I was old enough to be concerned about it. You understand? Right? Like my mother, right?
Yeah.
So that had an influence too. And furthermore, I'm a little bit more to the story, but at the time I'll tell you, because the tree calls back its fruit. Trust me. You'll see what I'm talking about in a little bit. Well, anyway, Heriberto, he followed La, and all of us kind of came up together. They were older and senior to me in the tradition, knew more about it than I did. We all kind of came up together, and we had hopes and aspirations to become awos, or to become priests, for lack of a better term, to become Olorisa back then, you know. And that was kind of like a dream for us. And all of us did eventually get initiated. And then also there was the late great Senor Cristobal Cabrera, who would have been my first trainer in a way, almost in a way. Not exactly first, okay? But he trained me very well, and in 1993 I was going to get initiated to Oshun in that system of Lukumi, but I didn't do that at that time. Even before that, I had got under the Orisha had placed me in positions to be under great awos or in their vicinity. And the first one who really started explaining stuff to me was Diamagba Adikola Adedapo. And she was married to my Babalosha, okay? But at that time I wasn't initiated. His name is Shangudini Ifatunji, and he's the head of Kila Ifa Jalumi in Chicago, as well as he has titles in Oyatunji Village for assisting there in the village, Yagbongo. Okay? Now, so, like I say, around 1985-ish, you know, I'm working at Southside Community Arts Center with Diamagba Nicola Adedapo. So that's before I got committed to the tradition, right? And she always had all this. She would come in with electres on. She would have all the traditional gear. She would be looking regal. She was sharp as a tack. She could sing. And, she was a senior to me, but she was extremely cool. She was the epitome of cool. And her whole carriage, how she carried herself and everything was just too cool. So finally one day I asked her, I said, what is it that you are into? Why are you doing these things? And she started breaking down for me traditional African culture. So this is a person who wasn't just into the spiritual religious aspect. She was into both that and the traditional culture. And she would sit and talk with me and tell me about the culture. And, as it turns out, well prior to that, my sister married a Yoruba man. Okay? His last name was Adibojo. Okay? And they got married when I was young because she was older than me. She was 15 years older than me. Baba Jerome, may she rest in peace. And even later in life, when I married my wife is of Yoruba descent from Sierra Leone. So this is what I mean when I say the tree calls back its fruit. At the time, we wasn't thinking about all that. You understand what I'm saying? I wasn't really thought at that time. I hadn't really thought about it. Didn't really think much about it. When I was a child, my sister, because she was so much older than me, they used to babysit me. And then she lived with her mother-in-law, who was from Nigeria, Yoruba woman, and her husband. So I was there in the house, and they was doing everything that Yoruba people do at home. Their juice sticks was in the house. So I ate Yoruba, they speaking Yoruba language, Yoruba food, everything. I wasn't really, I was just there. I was a little kid. I wasn't, to make me no difference. Food good, I ate. People treat me good, I'm happy. Done with it. You understand?
I say.
But all of it was our ancestors looking out for us in this raw, rough country that killed 8 out of the 11 of my grandmother's children. You understand? Right?
Yes, sir.
So, even through that, the ancestors was looking out for us. This is how it came out for me. So, getting back to where I was at. Okay, so, I got the blessing of training with Senor Cristobal Cabrera, who was an Olorisa Shango. But before him, prior to that, the first person that I ever went to personally to get a reading, it wasn't like my mother getting it for me, was Baba Shangodini Fatunji. And the first time I went to get a reading with him was like around 1988, 89-ish, probably 89. And he told me, you're about to get a large amount of money. And sure enough, I got my first artist grant, which for me was a lot of money back then. It was $1,500 to make a brochure and do some publication stuff I needed to do to help my studio. It was a lot of money. And I was like, whoa. I was like, this is a work here, boy. This works good. So he told me to get my ancestral shrine. So I think that was around 1989. So he helped me set up my ancestral shrine. But then, now this is a little sad part of it then. But then, to a certain extent, I was sticking with them. But what happened, like, I felt like that they were African Americans and they were like converts, and they didn't know that much. That's what I thought. I was like, I need to go train with somebody that's from Cuba or somewhere that's raised in the culture. They're not converted to the culture, that knows more. Well, that's what I thought at that time. That was extremely erroneous. That was wronger than two left shoes. That's what I thought at the time. I'm not the only one who went to that kind of, what do you call that, when you're not satisfied with yourself? You know what I'm talking about. When you're not satisfied with yourself, you feel that somebody else's ice is colder than your own ice.
Inferiority complex?
You got that inferiority complex. So this was the inferiority complex within the African diaspora. Let's call it that, right?
Okay.
So I began training with Senor Cristobal Cabrera, extremely knowledgeable Awo, and was a great man. I would have got initiated with them to our show, but the one thing we differed on is they didn't understand, or I'm not going to put it like that, they had a different cultural experience coming out of Cuba. And I think that my African nationalist, red, black, and green, black nationalist soul, we couldn't click on that, if you understand what I'm saying.
I hear you.
So the politics, the spiritual tradition was great. Their character was great. Their love was great. They're great people. But we differed on the issue of cultural nationalism. And I wanted the full package. So as a result, I didn't get initiated then and there, although I kept good relations with him and definitely count him as one of the blessings of my life forever. And he recently passed away at the age of 84 years old. He's one of the most beautiful Awos priests that I know. Right? Okay. So I didn't get initiated in 93. And that's a whole story unto itself, but we won't go into that right now. But what I did was said, well, I'll know who it is that I should get initiated to. When the time is right, I will know them. And then I started thinking about Bobby Finchy. I started thinking like, man, I said these people didn't know nothing because they was African Americans, and this, that, and the other. I said, I don't know if that's true, because they always had good character. You could count on them. They was reliable, like clockwork. I was like, man, I need to rethink this thing. And, after a few years, I called him and I apologized. I said, I didn't think you knew all that much because you was African-American. I figured I need to get somebody like, from Nigeria or Cuba, somewhere they raised in it or whatever like this to know something. I said, but I come to find out that's not true. Y'all definitely got the real deal going on. And now I don't have the money that I had. In 93, I had all the money. I was ready to go. Now my money done dried up, and I kind of know why, because I didn't prioritize this thing. Orisha had bought me the money. They wanted me to make the move, and I didn't make the move. Now the money's dried up, and he said, don't worry about it. He said, go put some money on your shrine. He said, put whatever you got on your shrine. Tell Orisha that you're going to come as soon as you can, and little by little you're going to do it. And from that time, I returned right back to the source, to the first people that ever started teaching me, which was Oyatunchi lineage, Slave Facha lineage, the African-American Awos, and I've been happy ever since. And, of course, then I couldn't get initiated as quick as I would have had, but I put that money on the shrine like he told me, and I started making little mini initiations for about a decade and working my way up and studying and doing what I could until finally I completed several initiations, but the biggest one in 2002 and 2003. And right there, Ile Fajalumi, with people who have a world of knowledge that was just really profound, and who I could really blend with both, not only spiritually, but human being-wise and culturally-wise, with every dream and hope that I wanted to do was there for me. So I kind of, in other words, I kind of got the best of both worlds. I had training in Lukumi, and then I had training in the Oyatunchi system, which is a mixture system of both traditional African, voodoo from Ouida, and Lukumi. So it all came together, and it was just probably my consciousness would not, had to evolve for it to all link in.
Ashe. And I guess the rest of it, they say, is part of the legend, because today you are one of the most popular people that I hear about, and I know some people who read with you, a lot of people who just have maybe not, I don't know, stayed directly, but at least into your lectures, and you leave quite an impression. Speaking about money, success, and all of that, you're also something of a triple or even quadruple artistic thread. You are a musical artist, a martial artist, and you are a fine artist, a painter. And I'm sure you do a lot of other stuff I'm not aware of at this point. But what's really interesting is a lot of that goes down in your art gallery, Dojo Ile, that's located in the French Quarter in New Orleans and on Royal Street, which is a very expensive location. And so it is something of a, I don't know, maybe even mystery, because there are not very many people of African descent who own shops down there. We mostly work down there. So please tell us about, well, it's a big question, your artistic journey in all of those things. How did you get into it? And then I read that your other arts are influenced by your sacred study. Would you tell us about your art and how it relates to your ministry?
Definitely. First of all, I'm shocked to hear the popularity of myself. I don't feel that way, but thank you so much for telling me that. That's a boost, and brother can definitely use a boost from time to time.
Well, thanks for the work, too, brother.
It's an awesome show, too. I'm glad that you introduced me to the show, because I wasn't aware of it. So, people are now taking people my age and expanding our horizons by exposing us to this technology more. And, okay, so the whole thing comes down to two or three things, but at the top of the list is the Egun, the ancestors. The ancestors in our culture has put wind behind our sails. So I was started in the public art movement, which is a political, social, and cultural movement. Started multicultural movement, but started in this latest incarnation in 1967 with the Wall of Respect in Chicago, which was led by the late great Mr. Bill Walker, another one of my mentors. Okay, so. And that was a movement of cultural activism. It's not just artistic, it's political and social as well, right? So I'm the child of those great African and African-American artists who did such fantastic things, like many of them are still with us. Some have joined the ranks of our ancestors, but like Mr. Bill Walker, like Dr. Jeff Donaldson from Afri-Cobra, and many others who are still with us, Nelson Stevens, and people like that, and Elizabeth Chadwick, may she rest in peace. I could go on and on. They created a movement of liberational arts that would help to liberate our people and make a contribution to the world. So once I got old enough to have a little sense and I was exposed to their movement, I said, okay, ain't no point reinventing the wheel. They done already put the plan. Now it's just for me to execute. So we're a visual manifestation of Marcus Garvey, of Martin Delaney, of William Blyden, who went to Sierra Leone. I think that was his name, and documented traditional African culture in Sierra Leone. And Ida B. Wells, and Afrocentric thinkers who laid out plans to liberate us as a people. We're the visual manifestation and manifestation of those types people. So that's how that goes. So 1970, Afri-Cobra, the African Commune of Black Revolutionary Artists, They later changed their name to the African Communal Bowl and Relevant Artists. In 1970 in Evanston, Illinois, they had a conference, and they laid out about 8 principles of Afrocentric art. And once they did that, and I got hip to it, I'm pretty much done with it. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Simple as that. No more thought necessary. Now it's time to execute. So at the same time as our culture, which was given to me initially by my family and then boosted by other professional awos that I trained with later through life, I was able to combine the two and let them influence each other through a type of cultural ministry. Now, at the other end, my family is traditionally, basically, Ogun is the principal Olorisa of my blood family. So it's natural for us to be into sports, athletics, fighters, and soldiers and things like that, which is one of the bigger, is a primary occupation of a lot of my family members. And so I started training martial arts officially in 1975, but even before that, my father was teaching me riflemanship and boxing. And he was a professional athlete. And my mother enrolled me in this elite fighting dojo. So I come to find that the Korean culture that I got exposed to there had some similar concepts to our traditional African culture. So it was a natural fit. And the rest was history. I've been doing that all my life. And then as far as the music, when I was about 7, my father gave me a kalimba. And I was raised mostly in Washington, D.C., but I also spent time in New Orleans as a little child because of family. And so he gave me a kalimba, and then I was raised around in D.C. where it's basically go-go country. They have all these great go-go musicians. Of course, go-go is Yoruba-influenced music. The word go-go comes from the agogo bell that leads to go-go band music. And my brother and cousin and them had a band, and as a little boy, my cousin exposed me to playing congas. So all of it comes back to culture. It all comes down to culture. Culture is what will either set you free or will inhibit you. And I was blessed to have a lot of culture that actually opened doors for me and set me free. And I would hope that our culture can open doors for many more of us and do its thing and give them that boost that I was given by all these great people.
Fantastic. Robert Marcus, would you give us your contact information so our listeners can have a way to contact you offline, because a lot of people are going to want to, talk to you more.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
First off, my phone number is 504-904. Excuse me, that's wrong. 504-905-6347. 504-905-6347. 905-6347. My last name, but you can hit me on Facebook, is Akinlana. A-K-I-N-L-A-N-A. Once again, A is an apple, K is in karate, I is in igloo, now is in now and later, L is in love, A is in apple, now is in now and later, A is in apple, Akinlana. Marcus Akinlana. Marcus Shangodoyin Akinlana. But on Facebook, it's Marcus Akinlana.
Okay.
And they can hit me on Facebook. And I'll say we also have for our ELA, for people that are interested in the traditional culture, we have a website, and I'm gonna say it and then I'm gonna spell it out. It's Ile Ekar Asha. So the website is www.ile. Excuse me, that's wrong. www.ILEEKOASA.
Okay. Ile Ekar Asha. And you're going to spell that for us, correct?
www.ILEEKOASA. Ile Ekar Asha in Yoruba.
Okay. And I'm quite sure between those 3 contact sources, you're going to be getting some mail soon. At this point, let us give you a chance to take a quick break, maybe drink a little water. And in the meantime, when we come back, we're going to get into New Orleans and contemporary New Orleans. It has a long spiritual history with the tradition, but as a person who, like I say, grew up mostly in D.C., but now is a fixture here, we want to get your view about that. And then we want to talk more about your upcoming lecture on Tuesday in 2 days. And we're going to do all of that when we come back right after this. Ashe.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member of the ANU community. Therefore, if you would like more information on ANU events and offerings, please sign up for our newsletter at anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of the world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in this season, or you would like to become a student of the ANU spiritual order, you can go to saduluhouse.org. That is SADULUHOUSE.org. If you would like to sponsor or advertise on this or any of our other broadcasts, please contact us at 1-800-ANU-LIVING. That is 1-800-268-548464. Or email us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions@anunation.org. For more information about Orisha and Orisha products, you can go to orishareligion.com. That is ORISHARELIGION.com. ANU Nation thanks you for your continued support. Be well. Greetings. ANU Nation is pleased to announce stores in the New York area who carry books from ANU Publishing, such as Grasping the Root of Divine Power and Natural Hair for Young Women. In the Manhattan area, the following stores carry titles by ANU Publishing: African Paradise, Fola International Boutique, Edgar Casey, Faye's Beauty Salon Unisex, Quest Books and Gifts, Integral Yoga, and Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center. In Brooklyn, the following stores also carry titles from ANU Publishing: Britannica, Santeria, and Magic, Nicholas Brooklyn, Official Connection, and Universal Botanica. If you are in the New York area, please check out these stores, and as always, remember to visit us at anu-bookstore.com. That is ANU-bookstore.com to purchase the latest and upcoming titles from ANU Publishing. And now, back to our segment.
And it's approximately 13 minutes until the hour, and you're sitting here with the ANU Asafo show, where Pan-Africanism meets African traditional spirituality, with your host, Sister Omilade, and me, Brother Wole Mongo Ifa. Today we're blessed to have as our in-house guest the quadruple threat, Olorisa Marcus Akinlana. Baba Marcus, we were just talking about how your ministry works with some of your other artistic activities, and we didn't get a chance to touch on the martial arts. Just wanted to find out, like, what type of martial arts you do, and I know you have a dojo, and then we'll transition and start talking about New Orleans today, okay?
Very good. The name of our dojo is Avalanche Ja. Avalanche, as in an avalanche in the word English, that's overwhelming force. And Ja is from the Yoruba word, which Ja means to fight, as in Jagun, which means warrior, like that. And it's a mixture system based on what we feel is practical, and also what I was taught by Master Child, United Federation of Taekwondo, starting in 1975, and also by my father, Mr. Jesse Jefferson, who was a soldier and professional athlete. And we mix judo, grappling and wrestling, with taekwondo, with boxing, aikido, street fighting, and weapons and gunfighting, and a few other things. And that's what we train in on a regular basis. And we also expect our students to follow both principles of the Korean Code of Conduct, which is Hawa Rungdo, which basically leads to Iwa Pwele, good character. So they have to uphold a standard that is compatible with the moral ethics of the Korean culture, Taekwondo, and with West African or Yoruba culture, specifically Iwa Pwele, to be members of the school. And they got to train hard. And that's pretty much it.
Shay. It just occurred to me, many of these activities you're involved in gives you the opportunity to interact with young people. And and I've seen photos of you doing so on Facebook. And by doing so, you should not be surprised that your legend will continue to grow. So just wanted to thank you again for what you're doing. And I wanted to ask you, your Ile is Ile Eko Asa. Could you tell us what that means in English?
Sure. The full name of the Ile is Ile Eko Yoruba in New Orleans. And it is the Institute for the Study of Yoruba and West African Culture for New Orleans. And from the great Awos of Oyatunji Village, including the Opao Sejima, Barbartaroon, I really gravitated towards them because they dealt with the restoration of culture, not as opposed to dealing with just the spirituality. And that appealed to me more. I thought that was something that would bring more benefits to my life and my family, if you understand what I'm saying.
I see.
Now, one of the things that happened to me that got into this, too, is that I started coming to New Orleans in 1970. So I did spend substantial time as a small child in New Orleans with my family here, and I was exposed to the culture. And I didn't know it then, but I knew it when I got older, that whole African side of New Orleans, as well as the family orientation of New Orleans and the peace that used to be here back then. Anybody who's old enough knows that New Orleans was a beautiful experience back then. It wasn't until later that we started having, the extreme violence and all like that that's associated with our city now, but it wasn't that way back then. And that also had a big impact into me, having a high regard and respect for African culture and the genius of our people. Just actually being in New Orleans from an early age.
Yeah, it's great to hear about those times. Sometimes I think we have so many young people who Katrina is a big, point for them. Some people going after Katrina. But, New Orleans was a different place. And hopefully that flavor continues to return and manifest.
Right.
And
bring it back. Right.
Speaking of the Crescent City and its history, our spiritual history, I guess the history of the African Americans being imported into this country primarily comes from two ports, Charleston, South Carolina, near the Olatunji village, and in New Orleans, Louisiana. And in South Carolina, you had a more spread out, more rural thing because of the topography down here in the swamp area. We have a lot of rural, but it's also somewhat limited. So there's a large urban thing happening. And we have the Marie Laveau tradition, the Dr. John and traditions going all the way from one type of lifestyle into the music that became known as jazz and was brought around the country and the world by Robert Louis Armstrong. But today, post-Katrina, being a person who has experience, as you say, here as a kid, but also a great deal of experience outside of this area, how is New Orleans today as a spiritual environment to be working in? And I'll shut up, but we have all these festivals, so it offers something to you as an artist, musically, spiritually, fine arts and painting artistically, and and like you say, there's violence here, so there's a reason for martial arts. So tell us about your impression of the city and on a spiritual level today for people interested, please.
I think that we are in it is very confusing for me personally. I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? And I think the confusion goes all the way back to the days of Marie Laveau, Dede Sleep, Dr. John, those great hooligans and mambos that you mentioned. And I look to them on how to survive today because, to me, they were master survivors. And I set up my Ile as much as I could based on trying two techniques that they already demonstrated success in. And part of the reason I think that things are very confusing spiritually here is because of the effective war that has been waged upon us by the enemies of the African race in Louisiana. Of course, it's not unique to Louisiana. This is a worldwide war. But, I'm dealing with here, okay? And the enemies of the progress of the African race, our enemies who have done everything they can to either corral our culture, destroy it, and many times exploit it or bastardize it. And if you go back in history, you will see that voodoo was a stronger presence here, even with the great horrific crime of slavery being in effect, and probably than it is right now, okay? And the reason that you see less of it here, whereas this is not like a bahia, because it should be more like a bahia, where, you can go right downtown New Orleans and there's a big shrine to the African gods, somewhat like they do in Bahia. That's another issue, too, because they turned Yemoja into a white lady in Bahia, but, that's another issue. At least they got a shrine to Yemoja, okay?
Right.
So, but you won't see that here because this is my theory. Because the slave owners or the criminals, the people, those criminals, those war criminals that we call slave owners, they're basically war criminals. Mm-hmm. They got wind that the late great Pokemon from Jamaica came to Haiti and made Herbal to Ogu and set off the Haitian Revolution. And Bookman wasn't no compromising type of leader like some of the other leaders. Bookman was about that. He was about that revolution, right? And they didn't want that. They didn't want that same voodoo, African cultural self-determination, Coochie Chocolate revolution coming to Louisiana. That was the last thing they wanted. So I had back in the early 90s, I went to the Alvar Street Library. I doubt if they still have this there after Katrina, but it might be there. I haven't been back lately. And I was able to go back into the files of the Times-Picayune way back in the early days. And they were sitting there defaming and lying and reporting on police actions against Voodooings in New Orleans from around the time of the Haitian Revolution all the way into modern times. So it began to be clear to me that just like you see them going on so-called drug war, which basically turned to be a war against poor people, people of color. They went on a so-called war against voodooings, and they started spreading all this misinformation, misunderstanding, and rumors of voodoo. And then now, you come to New Orleans in the French Quarter, and what do you see? You see people doing little ridiculous dolls and selling trinkets under the name of our sacred culture, voodoo, exploiting our culture to make a living for themselves in a bastardized fashion. And this is what you see. So I think it's very confusing, confused the hell out of people. And I know that by the fact that so many African Americans are returning to our traditions, that rubbish is going to be set right in due order. I know that for a fact.
I'm glad to hear how you feel about the future of things going, because you're absolutely right. Today there's a lot of so-called voodoo in New Orleans, but much of it is not traditional. It's mostly white influenced. Whether we're talking about
even people who are immigrants from Asia and other places who really don't know nothing about it, don't have nothing to do with it. They're just trying to survive or make a living, and they come here and that's what they're selling. So they start selling rinky-dink rubbish with the name of voodoo on it. You understand? Can you imagine if we went and put some Islamic stuff, if we started selling little trinkets or wrapped up trinkets of the Islamic Quran, and if, you know what I'm saying? They would have a fit. They would have a natural fit, right? Yeah. But this is how low we have been beaten and kicked and stomped down. But you know what? We're a long-standing people. Now, if you know our real history, we've been through almost every experience that the human being can experience on this planet. We've been through great heights, and we've been through low lows. But God damn it, we're still here. Right. So the day is returning. The great spirit of Marie Laveau, of Dr. John, of J.D. Sanique, and all these great mambos is still running through our blood in our veins. And our day is coming. Mark my words.
Ashe, I'm very happy to hear you say that, because it is almost confusing. You see, Voodoo Barbecue is even Voodoo Arena football team here.
Right.
But
the same ethnic group who attacked the true voodooings. So that will confuse anybody.
Now, here's a question I have written, but it flows right into what we're talking about. Not trying to put you on the spot per se, because you did just say there's a great deal of confusion. But as a leader of an Ile, you know, we have, I remember in the handbook of Yoruba religious concepts, Baba Karade, Ifa Karade writes in his preface something about when cultures come together and one dominates another, the dominant culture tends to take from the subjective culture the things that it wants and leaves the rest. And when talking about the voodoo tradition, Godun, much of the theology, if you will, for lack of a better word, because I see it as a spiritual tradition, not a religion, but most of that sacred knowledge was removed from what one might call the hoodoo aspect, the spells and things that are not related to, let's say, Odu Ifa. And being in a city where there is so much remnants of hoodooism, where a lot of people, they will have a little tradition in their family that's somewhat linked in one way or another, or they believe is linked. And I've run into a lot of people who feel that they know what's happening. They are tapped in on deep levels. And as a Ile director, leader, senior priest, how do you deal with your students in this strange environment that we call New Orleans today? People who come to you to learn the more correct or more traditional way. Is there a particular challenge as a teacher that you have found here, as opposed to some other places that you may have taught tradition?
I think you're right about that. I do think that is an issue here. And, of course, it has stained our reputation that they have confused sorcery with our true culture, right? Or with our high ethical culture. There's been a confusion of sorcery. Now, truthfully, we must be honest, and African peoples all over the world have had a history of dabbling in sorcery. I do not consider that to be our culture. It definitely don't have nothing to do with these fine voodoo. You understand what I'm saying, right? But there are many people who are doing some over time who try to twist metaphysical means to get their own selfish, greedy ends. But let us not fall into the trap of other people confusing that and trying to say that is our high ethical culture. It is not, right? And so we must not confuse the two, if you follow what I'm saying, right? Now, all of we people in the African diaspora have had similar experiences. I don't care where we are, right? And it was the experience of being displaced, enslaved, bewildered by culture taken from us, defeminized, emasculated, whipped, beaten, and thoroughly confounded and confused, if not killed, okay? And then we devised numerous strategies to survive under those circumstances. So one good strategy that I feel that we all have the opportunity to, whether we're in Santiago, whatever, in Cuba, and Havana in Cuba, or Santiago, I forget the name of the state there that's so famous for the heavy African culture, Santiago de something in Cuba. I've been there, but it's many years ago. Whether we're in Bahia, whether we're in Trinidad, whatever. We now have the ability to keep our African diasporic traditions that we have and upgrade them with further knowledge of the true cultural genius of our ancestors. For instance, today is soon coming, Nipati Hawaiian Kosoro Edewa Dabadara. I just said that the day is coming and we will be speaking our own languages very well. It is coming. That day is coming. Oni Imba. That day is going to return. Ati Ho Ati Emi Soro Edewa Abara. We will speak our language in a strong fashion. That day is coming. You understand, right? I feel that we are in one of the best periods because of the global community and the availability of knowledge to restore our African cultural genius, wherever we may be, whether we're in New Orleans, whether we're in Belize, whether we're in Chile, or whether we're in Toronto. Doesn't make any difference. Or, for that matter, whether we're in Abeokuta, or whether we're in Freetown, or whether we're in Burundi, right? We all need to restore our culture. And let's not be confused. It's not only the Africans in the diaspora who had their culture bastardized, destroyed, and confused. The Africans in the continent, in many instances, are totally confounded and confused and are not aware of or being taught or maintaining their traditional cultural genius. So this is a worldwide opportunity for we Africans to bring our Ashawa, our culture, to the forefront of our lives and live a glorious life surrounded by our own genius.
Shay, moving right in that direction, let's talk about your appearance Tuesday night at Sacred Tuesdays at King and Queen Emporium on Bayou Road in New Orleans, Sister Sula's place. What are you going to talk about? I know that initiation is advertised as one of the big topics, but tell us about what you're planning on doing, please.
Well, first of all, this is a two-part series class. So if any people are coming, I would appreciate it, and they would benefit the most if they tend on looking at it as a two-part thing. So they should come back the following Tuesday, because one of those days, it's probably going to be the second Tuesday, I'm going to show a movie made by my Babalosha, Baba Shangubini Patunji, and the Oya Tunji Village, which is Ade Juyigbe, Ade Fumikini, the current Oba, Oya Tunji Village. And it's called Indian Poetry. And it shows a lot of the Alakbas and how the African-American tradition was built here in the U.S. as far as restoring that traditional Ifa culture and some voodoo culture. And as it turns out, it comes up to modern times, because when I was initiated in that lineage, it estimated that I was about, this is hard to say, but the 1,000 initiate in that lineage. And it just so happened it was making the movie as I was actually getting initiated. So you will see a little bit of snip of the initiation process when I was initiated to Shango. So that is a powerful movie, and it's just really a joy to watch. And you will see a lot of the great Alakbas and elders who built Oya Tunji Village, which is one of the highest expressions of African cultural nationalism in North America, if not the world, that I know of, right? And, so that's one not to miss. So I'm going to lead up to that. We already had the first session where we talked about the history of the Yoruba people, the history of the Bamana people, and how the Bamana people, the Mandinka people, have brought our culture in our bloodline here to New Orleans. So we're going to talk more about that, but we're going to talk about the purposes of why you will get initiated into various societies, Egbe, in our traditional culture. Why would you get initiated into Egbe, be it Kundu society, Koro society, Egbe Gungun, or various different societies, Jelade society, things like that. And of course, why you would be initiated to Olorisa. And but we're going to put it in the context of the history and the adventures of our ancestors. So when we talk ancestors here, we're usually going to talk in like 2 or 3 different ways. The first, we're going to go to our original source, which is thousands and thousands of years back into the African continent. Then we're going to bring it up into modern times. And then we're always going to deal with Afro-Louisiana and our culture here, which is very, it's not well known, but it is profound.
I say, that sounds fantastic. And I'm planning on being at both sessions. So I'll be the brother who comes up to you with the black hat on. So thank you so much for that. That's going to be fantastic, covering so many of the things that personally I'm looking to see covered more. His name is Baba Marcus Akinlana. He is the chief spiritual priest of the Ile Eko Asa, Yoruba in New Orleans. And he can be reached both at his Facebook account at Marcus Akinlana, that's Marcus, capital Akinlana, and you can reach him also at his telephone number, area code 504-905-6347. And we want to thank Baba Marcus for coming, spreading the love, the knowledge, and the wisdom with us today. And just want to let you know that there's an open invitation for your return. We would love for you to keep us up to date on your coming events. So whether you're sitting in the house or not, we can let our audience know about some of the things you will be doing, because very, 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 very many people are interested in what you're doing, and they want to stay in contact with you, Baba. Just want to give you time right now to talk about anything that might be on your mind that I have not asked you about directly, that you think you would like to share with us. And I know that's not putting you on the spot, because you can handle yourself. But is there anything that comes to mind right quick?
Yes.
And
well, first off,
have 5 minutes. Take your time.
Okay. First off, I want to say Ekuche I want to send a shout-out to Okamfo Sula Janet Evans, who was initiated into the Ebe people's tradition. And on that Sacred Tuesday recently, she did a class about her initiation into the Ebe that was mind-blowing. I mean, I've asked her to do the same class again, and I'm going to sit in it again. That's how much I like the class. I want to hear the whole class over. It was mind-blowing. I want to send a shout-out to Jemani Little, who is the son of Harley Little, who was a great artist, a friend of mine that I knew, who, if I walked through, he made his transition. Once again, the ancestors are looking out for us. That's how we got that concept of that spot in the French Quarter, with help of the ancestors. And like that. Now, the other thing that I want to highlight is, personally, I am a great fan of the Maroons of New Orleans, or Louisiana. Let's say Louisiana. And for those people who are interested in the great sheroes and heroes of our race, and let me say, this is not limited to our race, because sheroes and heroes are universal, right? Okay? But if you're interested in some great heroes and sheroes of the human race and our race, the leaders, you should look up San Malo, or sometimes known as Saint Malo, so S-T-M-A-L-O, and you should look up the Maroons of Louisiana and check out their sagas, their adventures, their culture, their genius, and how they were successful in their military campaign to be free. They are some of the role models at our martial arts school, Avalanche Job. And I think I want to thank you for including me in this wonderful ego-boosting program. It's good to boost our cultural ego. Just like you have a personal ego, you have a cultural ego. And we all know that our cultural ego has been kicked through the mud. But we can uplift our cultural ego and thrive and have a good time in life. And you're really doing that. And you've done that for me personally today. It's Modukwe. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
If there's any more time, if you have a question, I can answer.
Definitely, and we do. We have, we probably have a little bit over 5 minutes. Bobby, I've been aware of your work as a diviner. I know some people, or at least one or two, who definitely have readings through you. And they are both satisfied, and as I said before, I only hear good things about you. I understand that I've even been blessed to hear part of a recording that you gave to one of your clients who had a reading with you. That's one of the most fascinating, the dafa, the reading. That's one of the primary steps, one of the steps that in so many cases really turns a person on to the tradition. And it's fantastic, it's marvelous, and it's so mysterious how that thing actually works. Being a person who's considered a good diviner, would you teach us something about, well, I guess first what I would ask is, would you teach us lay people what to look for in a diviner? And then tell us something about the process, if you will.
Sure. And I want to say Modukwe to some of the great awos like Awo Oluo Timichayo right here in the city of New Orleans, who helped me out with my divination skills, right? And many other awos. I won't go into names now, but many people train me. I do wait for all those alakbas that train me very well. And okay, so I think that when you get initiated, I'm gonna get back to that reading question. But when you get initiated, they call you becoming a wife of the Orisha. You become an Iyawo of the Orisha, right? And you would not marry a man or a woman without having done due diligence into their character, what is their family structure, what are the accomplishments of their family line, etc., so forth, right? Okay?
Yes.
So one of the good things to look for in a diviner is a person who is settled and, has decent character. I believe that, nobody's perfect. Now, nobody's perfect. There's no perfect role or person. But they should at least, conduct themselves in an orderly manner that makes sense. Now, the other thing is, if you go to get a reading and you're not sure that the person is genuine, you kind of have, you want to check them out. You want to give it a test. To me, in my opinion, it is appropriate for the first time if you just go and get a general reading and don't really tell them that much, let them tell you. Okay? Now, that will kind of put you at ease if it's a confident diviner, a servant of the Olorisa or lower. It'll put you at ease when they start telling you and you know that it's true and there ain't no way they could know that. Keep in mind that diviners, we're just the intermediaries that help people to align themselves their own heads. We're the intermediaries giving the word of the divinities to the people and as well as ourselves. I myself have had hundreds of readings in my lifetime, and even though I'm a diviner, guess what? I still go get readings from other diviners. I just recently had a reading from my Olorisa. So I believe in it very much. It has helped me a lot. It's helped many, many people. Like you said, you've seen some of the people who have divination from our elay, and I know that some of them have been helped, or if not all of them as far as I'm concerned. The other thing I would say is that there's no point getting a reading to a certain extent if you're not going to follow through. Ifa teaches that it's a waste of money to get a reading and then don't do the Herbal at the end. The Herbal means sacrifice. And then also one of the Herbals is to actually do your best and follow the advice of the Olorisa. You understand what I'm saying, right? That's how you could benefit the most. The few times in my lifetime that I've gone against the advice of Olorisa, oh boy, they didn't turn out good. But then again, that was my choice. Nobody to blame but myself. You understand what I'm saying? Right?
Yes.
So I try to follow the words of the wisdom of the ancestors and Olorisa as much as possible. And that if we're going to be honest, sometimes that's a daily crusade to try to get yourself in order. You understand? And we're going to be honest about it, right? But the more we do that, I think the better is the quality of our lives, and more importantly, the better the quality of the lives of our family. Family.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you sit and you divine for somebody, primarily you're finding the series of Odus, the primary Odu, and if it's coming with challenges associated, or if it's coming smooth sailing, nothing in the way. 2 quick questions. Are there always Ebos involved when you get a reading?
Pretty much, yes. These days, yes. In the old days, sometimes we used to say, like, well, this is a good reading, and we have to reach it, the Herbal necessary. But these days, we basically are like Herbal necessary, do the Herbal. Most of the time, from our elay, the way I was trained, we're going to try to give you a Herbal that you yourself can complete. However, sometimes, depending on the nature of the situation or the seriousness of it, we may have to do it, for you or with you, right? But I'm going to say 80% of the time, we're trying to give a person an Herbal that they can complete. If they decide to take this on as a way of life, then the training is to empower them so that eventually, they're doing a lot of their own basic divination. We do have the Ifa calendar. And you can open up on the Herbal calendar to certain Olorisa on the Olorisa days yourself for basics. But for major things, you're going to go see a diviner. Major things would be major problems, new business, new job, moving, marriage, babies, baby naming ceremonies, etc. Sickness, blocks, frustration, etc. New business, new job opportunity. New money-making opportunity, stuff like that. But for everyday type of things, small businesses, basic little questions and stuff like that, a person can learn to divine for themselves pretty quickly.
The divining for oneself. Are you talking about the Obi system?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I know that one does, well, it's debatable, but it doesn't include the use of the Odu. especially by the uninitiated. But when somebody goes to get a reading and they find out what Odu is working around them at that moment, first, how frequently does one need to get readings? And then secondly, how much study of the Odu can a non-initiated person do without getting, stepping into, hot water or slipping over a slippery slope?
That's a good question. A non-initiated person can do quite a bit of studying of Odu, but I don't think it's advisable to do a whole lot of studying outside of being a member of a well-organized, functional community, right? Okay? And this is a collective culture. This is not a Western individualistic culture, right? But you can do a lot of studying, and if you want to be in this way of life, you should do a lot of studying. Sometimes it may take you years before you actually complete initiation. It's a goal in life, just like getting a doctorate, if you follow what I'm saying, right? You want to get the doctorate, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen immediately. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah,
so, in the study, you can begin to memorize these all dudes. It is your ancestral culture. It is in your blood. It is your birthright. You understand? So there's a lot of study that a person can do. Now, humility is very good in this culture. Sometimes people get some knowledge and then, they lose humility for a little bit. Humility is good. But you can do a lot of study.
I thank you, and we all thank you. Adu Fuero, Baba Marcus, from the Anu Asafo program. Ashe. And we want to go ahead, Baba.
Oh, this was a pleasure. Ashe Fuwa, thanks a lot.
Igualmente. And we just want to remind everybody whether you're in New Orleans or not, we want to let you know Baba Marcus will be giving a presentational lecture on Tuesday night. It's called Sacred Tuesdays at the King and Queen Emporium on Bayou Road in New Orleans, a very interesting, historic, and sacred area in the city. And we want to also let you know that Baba Marcus is a gallery owner, a painter, musician, and drummer. He is a martial artist. Yes.
Our gallery is at 928 on Burgundy between Jermaine and St. Philip.
Bingo. 928 Burgundy. In the New Orleans French Quarter. His art is for sale. It's great work. I've seen bits of it. And you can go to his Facebook account. It's called Marcus Akinlana, Akinlana, and see some of his works, make contact with him through that. And also, he can be reached at area code 504-905-6347. That's area code 504-905-6347. Again, from all of us here with the Anu Asafo and the Anu Nation, the spiritual order, we want to extend a big thank you. Modufwe Opu, Pupo, Modufwe O, Baba Marcus, and we will be in touch, and we want you to stay in touch with us. So, Ireo, and may your journeys be fantastic. We want to let you all... Ashe, go ahead, Baba.
Orisha Bayo, may the Orisha carry you. May the ancestors be at your back and the Orisha at your front. Ashe-o.
Asafo. And we want to let everybody know that next week we have another exciting guest from the Phoenix, Arizona temple out there. I want to get the correct, but for those of you who clicked the follow button, that information will be coming forth to you. So remember to click the blue follow button underneath the Anu Asafo title here on the blogtalkradio.com page, so you can get the information on coming events. And from everybody at the Anu Asafo, particularly Sister Omilade and myself, Wole Mango Ifa, the Anu Spiritual Order, led by our illustrious Chief Tegna, Yuya Asan Anu, we want to thank you and encourage you to come back next week. So until then, Asafo.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member. For all those listening, if you'd like to gain a clearer and fundamental understanding of the Anu Order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. To find out how you can become a student and member of the Anu Spiritual Order, please visit us at saduluhouse.com. That is saduluhouse.com. Also, if you would like spiritual readings and assistance in your life as it pertains to your spiritual well-being and your divine purpose, please use the contact and scheduling forms to schedule a consultation with our Chief Jegna, Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Those forms are located at orishareligion.com. That is orishareligion.com, as well as are at saduluhouse.com. Also, sign up for the Anu newsletter for the latest happenings in the Anu community. The newsletter can be found by going to anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. If you'd like to become an on-air guest or sponsor on Anu Asafo or any of our other broadcasts, please be sure to contact us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions@anunation.org. Thank you for your continued support and be well.